So let's not forget that Darrell Johnson showed his face to the public, as well as Michael Avenatti, to gain the trust of their victims as they try to con them out of money. Okay? Don't forget that, you guys.
Morning. Any questions?
What just happened?
Well, so we filed a motion asking to preserve all communications with any witness, police, prosecutor, attorneys, and so forth. And then we learned something, that I knew that Michael Avenatti was involved with some of the people in this case, but I think what the state said is he represents witnesses in each of the cases, which is just crazy to me.
I thought she said that you said he represents witnesses.
No, we didn't say that. No, she said.
She said you said.
No, she said that he represents people in each of the cases. That's what she said. We don't know. We know in two of the cases he represents people. We know that he was representing people before the grand jury. We know that he's not a licensed lawyer in Illinois, so that's the unauthorized practice of law. We know what he says about what he does. We know how he operates. And we know that what happened in this case was a result of his pressure and nothing else.
How do you know that?
Because I've seen the evidence so far. And they just don't do this. They don't bring back cases that were rejected 15 years ago. They don't indict cases without talking to witnesses and doing a thorough investigation. And that's what happened in this case. A rush to judgment, a rush to prosecute because of pressure, all polluted by Michael Avenatti.
Why wait until Avenatti is under scrutiny for an extortion case and Kim Fox is now under fire? Why wait? If you felt like they were conspiring together, why would you wait all this time?
I said the first night when I was at the police station that this was wrong, that they had rushed to judgment, that they had succumbed to pressure. That's what I said the first night before we'd been to court and we'd seen anything. Then we started to get the evidence. We got a little bit of the evidence, and we can see that there's all sorts of problems. We didn't wait. We didn't rush. Maybe if he didn't have these problems right away, we would have waited longer till we had more of the evidence. Maybe not. But we know that he's got these problems. When you get in bed with fleas, this is what happens.
So, Steve, are you saying that Kim Fox...
If I'm at home and I'm listening to you talk about this, and obviously everybody's kind of focused on R. Kelly, tell me what you think is wrong about this case and how it's charged.
What's wrong with this case is that there is no case. There's no new tape. Avenatti's full of it when he said there was a new tape. There are old cases that were rejected, and understand we're limited what we can say about the evidence by our rules here in Illinois, rules that he didn't feel constrained by because he's not a lawyer here in Illinois. But I've never heard of, in 33 years of doing this, I've never seen a case where it's rejected after a full investigation and then 15 plus years later without any reinvestigation, just because the sort of public perception has turned that it's charged. There is a case involving a young lady who wrote a book where she said, I lied to R. Kelly about how old I was. I came to his trial every day. You had to be 18 to get into that trial. She went with her mother. That, if you see somebody with their mother and they're telling you they're 19 years old, mom doesn't say that's wrong. And there's problems with all of the cases. All the cases, they shouldn't have been brought. There's all this pressure. There was a so-called documentary which was really just a hatchet job that was done. And then they indicted these cases. And the problem is there was this call from the prosecutor. People call, let us know what happened. And so far, from what I can tell, the only people who called all of a sudden ended up with Michael Avenatti is their lawyer.
So, Steve, are you saying that Michael Avenatti pressured Kim Fox to bring these cases?
Absolutely.
When you say
Are you
there's no
saying
new
that Kim
tape,
Fox...
can you talk about the motion today and why you want them to preserve all of these emails and texts and social media?
Sure. We've already seen that State's Attorney Fox has conversations with people about pending cases, pending investigations. I want to know what conversations she had with Avenatti about this case, about these facts, and what occurred. I think it's totally appropriate.
Kim Fox fed him clients?
I'm alleging that it looks like she may have, yes.
When you say there's no new tape, are you saying that the tape at the center of one of those indictments is the same one at the center of the child pornography trial?
I believe that is the exact same tape, yes.
Same tape. What leads you to believe that?
What I know?
Have you seen the tape yet? I thought they weren't going to let you see it.
Yeah.
What I know, look, think of me like a good reporter like you, Megan. I have my sources. You have your sources. I'm basing it on what my sources are telling me.
Can you comment on your concerns about the Jussie Smollett situation and how you think that potentially could impact R. Kelly's trial?
I don't think that the Jussie Smollett situation is going to impact R. Kelly's trial. I think what it shows us is how this office operates. Or at least how some, I don't want to say, this office is full of great prosecutors, 99% of them. I think what we're talking about is the upper reaches.
Today you withdrew your motion to allow R. Kelly to travel. Explain the logic behind it.
Well, because we don't have the information. We don't have another court date scheduled. If he needs to travel for concerts, that's going to be handled by Mr. Anton, and we'll let him deal with it.
What are the chances he'll actually travel to Divine?
I have no idea. I think the chances of him traveling in a couple of weeks are probably zero at this point.
Avenatti has responded to what you're saying, and he tweeted out that he feels like R. Kelly's attorney is now trying to distract attention away from the clear guilt of his client by raising bogus arguments about he and Kim Fox. The evidence is the evidence. Multiple witness tapes plus DNA. What's your response to that?
So the DNA that I've seen thus far is not new DNA tests. It's the same DNA information they had when they rejected these charges years ago. And I don't need to respond to Mr. Avenatti. Mr. Avenatti thinks that he is the truth. He is the oracle of truth. I think the federal prosecutors disagree in New York. He's entitled to presumption of innocence like anywhere else, but they disagree. The tapes don't bear that out. The prosecutors in California disagree. When everything somebody touches is like this, what happened here is they got in bed with Avenatti, and Avenatti is toxic. Everything he touches seems to blow up, and that's what's going to happen here.
You said that the state's attorney, you wanted to find out if she's been bullied or manipulated. How do you think she's been bullied or manipulated by Michael Avenatti?
Well, we'll see what the stuff shows. But I think it's obvious when he was coming in here, he was having press conferences, he was spending hours and hours meeting at the state's attorney's office, that some kind of influence was going on. He was having very public outcries to do something. You have to do something. I also have a problem with the fact that he was representing witnesses before the grand jury, and he is not licensed to practice in Illinois. That is the unauthorized practice of law, and it's improper. I'm sure he'll say otherwise. I suggest people take a look at the law. Okay? Anything else?
How's R. Kelly doing?
I think he has a cold or the flu. So, but I don't live with him. That's why he's not here. He wasn't feeling well. All right? Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm sure that Mr. Kelly is going to do whatever he needs to do to maintain his own sanity under the circumstances. I have not talked to him about that interview with Gayle King. Obviously, he went into custody, I think, the same day that the interview first aired. I wasn't there when he was doing the interview, but I don't think he regrets.
You weren't there?
Do you think it was
I'm
a mistake
sorry.
to do an interview as
The acknowledgement there's the existence of this tape that you haven't seen?
I don't know what the tape is. How can we acknowledge anything exists? We haven't seen it. No one's shown us the tape. No one called up and said, would you like to see it? No one said, can you verify? No one said anything. They're walking around, they say a tape exists. People could say whatever they want.
Do you care to comment on the other investigations in New York?
I don't know anything about any investigation in New York. I haven't talked to anyone in New York. Part of the problem with all of this is that a grand jury investigation is supposed to be secret. And for a secret proceeding, there's been a lot of damn leaks. Everyone in that documentary, first of all, they're going on a Surviving R. Kelly tour. Have you ever heard of anything like that? Getting paid, selling tickets to go speak to groups about their experiences. Every one of the women in that documentary had a song they were now going to release, a book they were now going to release, a deal they were now going to do. Everybody's trying to profit off of R. Kelly. Hey, I met R. Kelly once. Look, oh, he looked at me the wrong way. Boom, money.
What about these videos that Avenatti says he has?
Avenatti says he has a video. I've never seen it. I don't believe anything Michael Avenatti says.
Did you see the photos Michael Avenatti released today from the video he's talking about?
I don't know where Michael. I saw the 3 photos that he posted on Twitter. Someone sent them to me. He blocked me from his Twitter account because he's a coward.
and he apparently didn't want me to see what he posted.
Do you think those photos are of R. Kelly?
Those R. Kelly on the photos that he posted?
I don't know if it's R. Kelly or not on those photos, but anyone can have photos. I don't put any credence in anything.
He says it was from the new video, the newly unearthed video that has been handed over to the state's attorney's office. What do you think of that?
I think that if he had video, give it to the state's attorney's office. We'll deal with it in the courts. That's what I think. Okay, we're not going to deal with it out here.
What do you make of his allegations of witness and evidence tampering during R. Kelly's 2008 trial?
R. Kelly he had Sam Adams Jr., a great lawyer. He had Ed Jensen, a great lawyer on that case. They picked a jury heard all of the evidence, and a jury acquitted him. That's what I know about the 2008 case.
You didn't know who filed the motion today, but it was not R. Kelly. I'm reading from your tweet at SG Crim Law. It came out of an out-of-state address, certified mail. He's in Chicago, you say. He has no access to certified mail. It was legally and factually a farce. Our names were misspelled. It wasn't signed. It's not from him. Somebody responded to you and said, did you actually speak to your client regarding the matter? And you said, yes. Steve, what is going on with that? Are they investigating that?
I don't know what they're doing about that. There was an individual, I spoke to him one day on the phone. He holds himself out as some kind of a paralegal, and he decided that he should file a motion saying that Kelly had never been indicted, which of course we all know is false. I can't help that someone sends something into the court. The court should have a better system maybe for weeding out these kind of frivolous things. There have been other filings. There have been letters to the judge and so forth that have also been submitted.
All right,
but
Steve,
this is the first thing like this.
Yeah. First time I ever saw it in 30 years, and as a head of a prosecutorial agency myself.
Is R. Kelly planning on giving any sort of news conference or addressing the public himself anytime soon? Has he thought about that?
Hopefully he will.
Do you think he plans to address the public soon?
I'm sure he will. If nothing else, I'm sure he'll write a song. And it'll be a big hit.
As to yesterday's verdict.
Well, I can't state enough how disappointed I was. We were involved in the New York trial for a long time, and in the months leading up to it, a couple of months beforehand, he made a decision to change his legal team. I was just saying this morning that it was sort of like starting Justin Fields in his first NFL game this weekend for the Bears, which didn't really work out too well. He went with a very inexperienced crew, and I think they got slaughtered. That's unfortunate because I think that he should have won that case. I don't think it was a racketeering enterprise. While there may be things, as people have said, in his past that he did that were wrong or immoral or distasteful, it doesn't really, in my opinion, rise to the level of a federal criminal case. Fairly creative, and I'm a firm believer that if a prosecutor has to get creative in order to figure out what you did that was illegal, then what you did probably wasn't illegal. Let's face it, they brought essentially a squirt gun to a knife fight. They didn't have any witnesses lined up, and they weren't prepared for it. There's problems with the jury instructions in the case. There's problems with the breadth of the evidence that was presented. I think it was an extraordinarily unfair trial where the government was allowed to bring in all sorts of other people to sort of tell their story without any backup, and they weren't charged crimes. It's what they call other crimes evidence, but there was way too much of it. It's why Bill Cosby's conviction got reversed in his case, because it's just patently unfair.
Well, I mean, we still heard some pretty damaging testimony, some graphic, information was brought to the stand. So how does that impact the case then? I mean, it's out there now, so that had to have impacted the jury's decision.
And now you're saying exactly what I'm saying. So what did that have to do with anything? For instance, he was alleged to have, in one instance, bribed somebody so that he could marry Aaliyah. What actually happened with Aaliyah, why that may have happened, wasn't relevant. He was alleged in a few incidents to have transported people across state lines for the purpose of having sex. That's fine. All that was relevant, and I'm a lawyer, so we break these things down, and like you said, jurors will look at it more broadly, which is why you want to narrow it down. They brought them across state lines for sex. What was relevant was they had sex. It wasn't relevant how they had sex. All these people that were allowed to say that R. Kelly gave them herpes when those particular counts of the charges didn't have anything to do with whether or not he gave them herpes. Just all sorts of problems, but his attorneys, and I don't mean to Monday morning quarterback everyone, but they were ill prepared. They didn't file the motions they needed to file. They didn't push back against the evidence, and he got railroaded and steamrolled.
All right, well, you're still representing him for charges, federal charges in Illinois. So
correct.
What happens next?
I'll tell you something. Years of the crappiest term to agree on is what a horrible he has been.
Wow.
So, sayonara, sucker.
Wow.
2022. It's a new year.
Now, we didn't want to talk about the Drew Peterson case. Now, you informed us right before we went on the air. You're like, oh, I can't talk about that because, this gag order there. But you certainly can kind of touch on the fact that you're joining this team. I know Joel Brodsky, when these two previous attorneys left, he said, you know what, it was a kind of a conflict. It was sort of irreconcilable differences was a term I heard used. And he even said on the air, hey, you know what, attorneys have big egos. I mean, you have big egos. How big is your ego? And is it going to clash? I mean, is it going to clash seriously with Joel Brodsky and the rest of the team?
Again, drawing on you. How big is your ego to be able to go on TV and face all the people? So you have to have a certain amount. I don't like to think of it as ego. I like to think of it as confidence.
6 hours a day. I have a key swab. I can walk into his apartment when I get ready. I take his phone at will. I go through his phone. I'm with him. Half the time, he's not even there. He's playing basketball or at the cigar lounge, things that he likes to do to calm his mind. Those young ladies come freely. I'm there.
New York prosecutors say an alleged crisis manager of R. Kelly bribed a Cook County, Illinois, clerk with $2,500 to obtain inside information on the rapper's legal situation after the Lifetime documentary Surviving R. Kelly came out. The finding was revealed in court documents Friday, in which prosecutors asked to bring up multiple uncharged crimes at trial next month to help establish a motive for his alleged behavior. In the filing, federal prosecutors provided different documentation to support their claims, including an audio recording reportedly obtained from R. Kelly's phone between him and the alleged crisis manager. In it, the crisis manager said he knew people who could tip them off on Kelly's charges if he could figure out what you could do for them. Kelly allegedly responded, "What you do, man, is write something on a piece of paper and give me what I should tip the bailiff. What I should tip the valet." The crisis manager is said to have later admitted to paying the clerk $2,500 and supplying them with a burner phone to inform them of any potential charges.
He was already mad at me because he claims that somebody told him, or he got his hands on something that basically, because he claims that he got some type of audio, and he said that I was trying, well, basically I told Rob the stuff that he was saying when he sent, what's the fake crisis manager's name? Darrell Johnson. He was like, oh, you told him about Darrell Johnson. You told him about Mason. Because, he did have people infiltrate the camp. He was dealing with people around. And like I said, I've never seen Rob do shit.
Listen. Okay, listen. You know that I talked to Angela now. You got to get rid of Mason, and you have to get rid of this publicist, because they are working with Avenatti. This was a whole, this Darrell Key thing. They knew about this from weeks ago, they've been planning this. I know you don't probably want to listen to me, but please, just do that. You cannot let him do this interview on Monday. All this stuff is a plan to just flip you apart and make shit worse.
Cannot let who do an interview?
This Darrell Johnson guy. The guy who's supposed to be like the publicist or whatever.
Rip me apart how?
Get you away?
Rip me apart how?
Like, it's just all things. Like, I don't know.
No. Just be specific. Be specific. Rip me apart how?
I don't know the how.
Okay, I want you to find out. I want you to find out how and let me know.
Okay.
Let me know.
He was saying that when he was sending people in to infiltrate Rob's camp. He was saying that when he was sending people in to infiltrate Rob's camp. He was saying that when he was sending people in to infiltrate Rob's camp, that I told him the things that he was telling me. So he was already mad at me from like days before that. He just kind of went off the handle saying that I told Rob everything that he told me because he knows that his hands are dirty. He's done a lot of foul shit that he shouldn't have been doing. And I think at this point, with authorities being involved in all of this stuff, he just wants to keep everything quiet that he's done. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know if he'll get in trouble. I don't know what the deal is, but I know it's not right.
Now, if I was a judge, me personally, and I thought a guy was a known pedophile over the last 30 years, why is probation even on the table? If this guy is a known pedophile, if he's holding these people hostage, why haven't the doors be kicked in?
Well, I mean, I think that's a legal process. I don't think that speaks to guilt or innocence.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if a judge over these years thought that this is what it was, you got enough to indict, just have zero bond.
Yeah.
Well, if it was me, I wouldn't want to work with him. You don't kick a dog down when he's down. So if Mr. Kelly is found innocent, y'all coming at me as if I have your daughter. I don't work for Mr. Kelly. I work for Mr. Stephen Greenberg. Y'all coming at me as if I have your daughter. I don't work for Mr. Kelly. I work for Mr. Stephen Greenberg. I have a 21-year-old. Oh, wow. Listen to me. I have a 21-year-old. I would drive that truck in that hotel if my daughter's in there. That's what I would do. I would drive that truck and I'd get her if it's my daughter.
R. Kelly's former crisis manager Darrell Johnson yesterday on a third-degree aggregate theft charge. He's accused of defrauding two people out of tens of thousands of dollars. But now more people are coming forward with new claims, including a family who says they were scammed out of millions. Our Sion Rhodes is live downtown now where those accusers met with prosecutors today. Sion?
And Chris, Darrell Johnson's scheduled first court appearance today was waived under Harris County Court COVID protocol, so he wasn't here. But several people who claimed they were scammed by him did show up. A group of strangers turned allies, united in their efforts to get justice.
He's a con artist.
He manipulates the situation by preying on your vulnerability.
Cola Lewis is one of two people who filed charges against former R. Kelly crisis manager Darrell Johnson for defrauding them out of $50,000 in schemes involving crisis management and real estate
services that were then never rendered, and the money was never returned to the victims.
Today, more alleged victims met with Harris County prosecutors, hoping to have their cases investigated.
He's taken over $2 million from my dad.
Mindy Howard says Johnson is her 77-year-old father's neighbor.
For the past 4 or 5 years, he's just kind of worked his way into my father's trust. It's devastating. I mean, it's destroying our family to see everything that he's worked for being stolen out from under him with all of these lies.
Thanksgiving's, Christmas together all the time.
Yahtzee Luchin has known Johnson for more than 20 years. His cousin is Johnson's wife.
Based on that family connection, it made it easy for me to be a believer in what he presented to me.
Luchin says he invested $60 grand in a real estate flip with Johnson that never materialized.
No deal, no money. I'm not worried about the money. I know I'm not going to get the money back. This needs to come to a stop and needs to be stopped now before there are other victims.
Now, Johnson is required to appear in court on Monday for a hearing on his bond conditions. The prosecutor telling me she plans to ask the judge that Johnson surrender his passport, that she will place travel restrictions upon him, and also that he be prohibited from acting as a financial manager of any kind, accepting, soliciting money, and using it for any sort of real estate or other investments. Now, the Harris County DA's office says their investigation here is ongoing, along with a separate investigation from the HPD White Collar Task Force. Both agencies say they'd like to hear from any other possible victims who could be